I'm waiting for people to show up. I'll be right back. In the meantime, Felix will entertain you. I'm coming. I'm coming. I'll be there in a second, folks. Anybody there? Huh? Is anybody there? Huh, Otis? Go see. Go see, Otis. Who's there? Get Felix. Get Felix. Get Felix. Get Felix. Come on, get Felix. Come on, Otis. Get Felix. Get Felix. There's Felix. Where's Felix? Is that Felix? Is this Felix? Get him. Come on, Otis. Get Felix. Hello, everybody. Or nobody. Or somebody. Or a body. Have I got some stuff I want to share with you? You know why the keys on the piano are black and white? They're tuxedo keys. Anyway, I want to share, I want to push to make April Fool's Day National Scam Awareness Day. A couple of news agencies have taken a look at my Scam Granny video. They like it. They said they would like to talk to me further. But, oh man, this ice storm, we lost a lot of trees. There's limbs down everywhere. And let me brush my hair. Everybody else does it, so why can't I? So anyway, Victor, our yard guy that we've had forever, he used to work for the people that owned our house before us. So he's worked on our property for 10 years. But, we can't employ him full time at $30 an hour. $200-300 a week is a bit much. So we found Victor he got another job. And I called him last week and I asked him if he would come over on Sunday. I begged him and I promised him and his son dinner. We really like Victor. He's an honest man. He's a hardworking man. And Larry says, let's pay him $40 an hour. Well, him and his son arrived and they started trimming trees and I started making dinner. I made a tri-tip on the Traeger and that was expensive tri-tip. Wow. I got it from a specialty cut butcher. So, man, it was tender. Anyway, they were felling one of the big birch trees in front of the duck pond. Oh, I got to tell you something. I was accosted yesterday. I tried to file a police report. They just laughed at me. Anyway, they took out the dog cage. I needed 3 people strong men to help. So I held my duck. Really, I carried him into the house so we could redo his pond and his duck cage. Anyway, I was wearing a blouse similar to this, and Louis put his head down in here. He bit my boob right on the nip. Oh, ow. It's bruised. Want to see? No, you're not going to see. Anyway, that hurt. I wanted to wring his neck. And then I tried to put a collar, a leash and a collar on him. I put a halter, and he got out of the halter. I was going to take him for a walk. Stupid idiot. So I threw him in the shower and kept him there until we got his cage clean. Anyway, after they were done cleaning the cage, they started taking down trees. And Victor, he has experience. He goes up trees. He wears safety belts and stuff. And then he, yes, the moon. And did you see all the deep earthquakes we're having? 8s and 9s. OMG. And they travel from New Zealand up through Japan, up through Alaska, down through California, and down through Oregon and California, and down through, we're in a grand solar minimum, people. They were going to a mini ice age in 2030. Look up ADAPT 2030. He is so right on. Anyway, explains why. And we're going to start having these plasma charges. Remember those cliff drawings and those what do they call it? Petroglyphs of these weird little things from the sun. Those are called plasma discharges. Plasma charges, plasma discharges. And we're going to start seeing these weird electronic anomalies because the Earth is going through a magnetic change. I used to study geology until I was stupid enough to study all these rocks. I took a test, 110 rocks in the room. I had to go around, identify the rocks, say the top 3 chemical makeup of each rock, and the hardness scale, and what category were they, intrusive or extrusive, meaning like intrusive is made underneath ground, that's granite. And anyway, I got almost 100%. So I'd be pretty smart, but dumb. Anyway, so Victor was 6 feet up on top of halfway. He'd felled half the tree. Then he went to go fell the other half. The ladder came out and he fell 6 feet to the ground, and the ladder impaled him. Anyway, he's still in the trauma unit downtown Portland. I'm glad we have good insurance, because Victor is a hardworking man and we'll do him right. I don't know how much that's going to cost us, but it is. But we have a $2 million umbrella because of our pond and our home. So pray for Victor. He's still in the trauma unit. He's been in the trauma center since yesterday. And he has 3 broken ribs, really badly broken, but no punctured lung that they can see. Let's pray his lung isn't punctured. But the 2 cats are fighting. Kitty, 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 kitty. Come here. So I want to push to make April Fools. Starting on April Fool's Day, the National Day for Scammer Awareness. So hopefully the news media will pick up my videos. I want to get them professionally done, but they're what, $1,000 a piece to have them professionally made. But it will help awareness with scammer awareness. There was a gal in our church. She was just scammed out of several $1,000s. I just talked to her and asked her if she would do her story. She says that she's not ready to talk because she is so distraught. She lost several $1,000s and it's giving her panic attacks and stress. She can't handle it. Poor girl. She has really bad pain and she's suffering. I wish we could help her get her money back. And poor Miss Jane, she continues to suffer with her. Yeah, Victor got hurt. Ah, poor Victor. Oh my God. He didn't get to eat any tri-tip, but he did have a peanut butter sandwich, a few bites of it during the night, but then he fell asleep drooling because of the morphine. He doesn't take drugs, so anyway, the reason these scamming, I would like to be an advocate for scammers is number one, I have nothing else to do and it's fun. Keeping the scammers online, thinking they're going to get my number or my information or whatever. When they're online, I have them online and they can't call anybody else. Aren't I pretty? Don't you hate it when somebody thinks they're so beautiful? There's a couple. I saw a new true crime person. She's a snot. Oh, you're getting drive-through, Angela. She's getting her drive-through Krispy Kreme donuts. Hey, did you know Krispy Kreme? They no longer give you a free donut. Oh, well, in the drive-through. Oh, somebody told me about Krispy. It was my dear friend Lolita, the one that passed away. She was telling me about Krispy Kreme, and I thought, oh, what kind of donut? You know, why is Krispy Kreme any special? But anyway, wow, I got my first Krispy Kreme when Dan and Lolita came up here a few years ago. Whoa, I'm a Krispy Kreme fan, even though I'm allergic to the wheat. I got some new props for my Caribbean pirate scammer. Anyway, I wanted to tell why I've always been interested in scammers, because my father was a scammer. And the FBI had a dossier on him a couple years ago because they believe he murdered some women. I believe he did. He hated me and he beat me to within 1 inch of death. I mean, the man just used to batter and beat me. He blamed me for all his problems. Anyway, he was a woman hater, but he didn't beat my mom up. He just beat me. I was the only one in the family that he beat, because when my mom was 3 months pregnant with me, she told him that she was pregnant, and he took off. He left her in Valencia, California, on her parents' dairy in Artesia, and he hitchhiked to Florida, Fort Myers, Florida, to his white trash family. He had 12 brothers and sisters. Actually, he had 17 brothers and sisters. 5 were adopted out. The Williams in Indiana. I wonder if I'm related to those Delphi murder girls. One of the girls' last name is Williams. Could be, because my grandmother adopted 5 kids out, two twins, 2 sets of twins and a single. They're in Tyner, Indiana, which is close to Delphi. And Williams is the last name. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to get my DNA done. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Come on. But anyway, Bob was my father, biological sperm donor. He took off. He hated me. He blamed me. And my mom was so in love with him, just wanted him no matter what. So she left me with her grandparents, or her parents there in with my grandparents there in the dairy. They spoke Spanish, so I spoke half Spanish and half Okie. They used to call me Little Cracker because I had uh, a Florida cracker twang to my. You don't say Florida, it's Florida, and Miami is Mama, Mama. And I used to go to Sanibel Island and roam the beaches with Bob's sisters when I was 3.5, almost 4, and they'd leave us all day at the on the shores there at Sanibel. I love the beach and I love lightning. Oh my gosh, I love lightning. So honest, let me tell you something. I just, remember the fireside chats with Pam Lowry? She was a YouTuber. I just found out she died January 25, just a few weeks ago. I understood she had brain cancer, some kind of brain. Angela, do you know what she died of? Anyway, and then her name was Kim Lowry. Did I say Pam? Kim Payne Lowry. She was with Molly Golightly in Las Vegas. If you look up Molly Golightly back a year ago, she went with Kim and Joanna in Las Vegas. This girl named Barbie. Oh my gosh, she's the ugliest girl. Ew. She is ugly. That's her. Anyway, how sad. And then Denise Rainey, she was a really good YouTuber. So, and let's search for the California boys continue on. Have you seen the Have you seen the Grave Digger's Wife?
Started talking
oh my gosh, you got to see it on 2020. The Grave Digger's Wife. It's really good. I think there's about 6 in the series. I'll try to leave a link if I can. Yeah, Cinnamon Hot. Yeah, she did really hurt Jules. I don't know why. Well, because she got in with somebody else. I won't mention the woman that likes to flaunt her boobs. Anyway, I told you about my boob injury when Louis stuck his head down my shirt. That's what I get for not wearing a bra. But oh man, he pinched my boob. Oh, it's bruised. I tried to call the cops on him. Somebody said to make some cold duck. Drink cold duck. Make some duck soup. Louis, come on, Felix. Come on. Felix is so sweet. Come on, Felix. Anyway, I'll tell you about Bob. My father, the scammer. My mom promised that he wouldn't have to work, that he could play cards and gamble with his brothers while she carried the workload, and she paid the rent, made the food. So we lived in a little tiny travel trailer in Fort Myers, Florida. While my mom worked nights, she always worked nights her whole career. She was a nurse's aide then, and she'd come home and get into bed, and I'd have to sit and entertain myself the whole day while my mom was sleeping. Bob was always gone. I never remember Bob. I can't remember him ever telling me he loved me. I can only remember him telling me how much he hated me and how much he wished I was dead. and then he would tell me to kill myself. And a couple of times I did. Oops. Uh-oh. We're losing power. Something's wrong. I better call my husband. I think we're on generator. I can't tell when we're on generator because it goes on automatically. But I think what is happening is the power lines, the limbs, we have trees broken everywhere. Just like I said, we lost 5 trees, but every single tree has major limbs fallen. So scary. Yeah, camisoles. Yeah, I can't even wear camisoles with any support because I have a bunch of tumors around below my boobs. Larry Young, the communications expert, the Motorola communications expert. Try and get a hold of him. Impossible. So anyway, Bob and Ruth, my mom, moved from Fort Myers, Florida to Mariloma, California, where his dad was hardworking, but none of his children were. They were all lazy, but their dad, Frank, which was my grandpa, was alcoholic. I can only remember him being drunk. And I remember he was so drunk that he was passed out on the curb there in Mariloma in front of his store. And my dad's youngest sister was Donna, and she was 1 hour younger than me. I don't know, she could be older because she was born in Tyner, Indiana on January 15, just after midnight. And I was born January 14, just before midnight. So I don't know who's older. Anyway, haven't stopped to figure it out. So they bought this several acres, 20-acre plots and more surrounding acreage. And Frank and my grandma, Evelyn, they sold some of that off. And then I find out that that property that we had lived in used to be a turkey and chicken ranch. Anybody ever hear of Mariloma or the movie The Changeling? The Wineville horror murders? That was where my grandparents bought the property. Let's see, the Changeling. Anyway, that was no, there's a Changeling. Oh, I don't know what the name of the movie is. But I think it's a Changeling. About the Wineville horrors. Wineville, they murdered this guy, killed 22 children. The Wineville Chicken Coop murders, also known as the Wineville Chicken Murders, were a series of abductions and murders of young boys that occurred in the city of Los Angeles and in Riverside, California between 1926 and 1928. It received national attention. Anyway, I lived in Mariloma. Oh, there's a Wineville Avenue. I'm surprised. They changed Wineville to Mariloma. means small. Loma is
Hey
mountain.
guys, I'm here in the city that was once known as Wineville, California, which was changed to Mira Loma after a series of abductions and murders that happened here in
Anyway,
this very chicken coop.
um, there were chicken coops behind our house.
So I'm pretty sure they found bones.
See this house? 5082, that's where I lived. Anyway,
That ground right there, that very ground.
that's where I began being sexually abused. I remember there was castor bean trees there, those and eucalyptus, and
It's creepy enough as it is.
I was always scared
Just a couple
there.
houses down is a preschool.
And the 3 chicken coops behind our house was turned into into apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, and it is crazy. I'll show you a picture of the house where I lived. 5082 Etiwanda Avenue. Um, I would like to go there, go in the house. It's 5082 Etiwanda. I don't know if that's, yeah. This was my parents' bedroom. My bedroom was in the back, and then there was a bathroom in between, and that's where Howard would molest me. And Bob, when they moved back to Maryland or back to California, without a banjo on anybody's knee, all of Bob's sisters and brothers all lived on the property. And my mom was about the only one who worked, who brought home a paycheck. But then Bob got a job working for Kaiser Steel there in Fontana, right where Lori Daybell lives. Lori Daybell and I have crossed paths. My cousins all crossed paths with her because they lived in Rialto, the same area. They went to the same high school. I'm trying to get a hold of my cousin. He's about Lori's age. See if he remembers her, but probably not. Anyway, so Bob had a job with Kaiser Steel, and he rode a motorcycle. A lot of people get killed on motorcycles, but he didn't. He got a serious leg injury, so he was off work, and he's never went back to. He never held another job, getting paid. So my mom always worked nights. She was always angry because of Bob not working. And then when we lived in Arlington, I went to a new school every single year. Because we moved because of the landlords were mad. And when I was in the 2nd, 3rd grade, I remember, I think Mrs. Bell, I'm not sure. No, it was Liberty Bell School. I forget the teacher's name. But anyway, she was so sweet to me, and she would have me help her. I was very tall. If you see the picture from the grade school, I was taller than the teacher, because when I was through growing, I was 5'9.5". I was almost 5'10". That's 2 inches short of 6 feet tall. So I was very tall, and I wore a size 10 shoe back then when I was in the 3rd grade. And I couldn't wear female shoes because they didn't make female shoes in my size. So I wore those rubber thongs, not the underlaced panties, but or men's tennis shoes. So my mom was always angry. And then when we moved to Arlington, we had a long driveway and then some homes in the back and then a little home upstairs, kind of like a in-law quarter. And Bob and his brother, Chet, were pretty close. His other brother, one brother, Howard, was the one that molested me. And his other brother, Art, there was Art and Dick. Dick and his wife were really kind to me. And Art and Mary, his wife Mary, were a godsend. They helped me when I was pregnant. So Bob and Chet, I kept begging for a piano. I had always wanted to play piano, and when I was young, I would sit at the church piano and play, and everybody says, your daughter is talented. She's gifted playing piano. And my mom said that I wasn't smart enough to learn. And she never got me a piano, except for Bob and Chet came home drunk one time, laughing, carrying these pieces of piano, keys and parts. And he says, well, I got you a piano, but it fell off the back of the truck and we had to pick it up. So anyway, it was broken. And they thought that was funny. And then they stole a Goodwill donation truck. I guess it goes and picks up stuff. This was back in the 62. My grandma had a 63 pink Cadillac with wings. And so that's how I remember the year, or 62. So then they spent their time emptying the Goodwill truck. And yeah, it was a pink. Yeah, she had a brand new because my grandparents were kind of wealthy. And maybe it was a 64 because it had three. And I was so angry that my mom was okay with their stealing. And I said, oh man, that's dishonest that they were stealing from the Goodwill truck. But that's how I was dressed. That's how I got my clothing. I never, ever got new clothing, never had Christmas, never had Thanksgiving, not because of any religious reasons. It's just because my mom was always working. She always worked the holidays because she got differential pay, which was $1 an hour more back in those days, or maybe 20 cents more back in the 60s. So she was always working, and we never went to family stuff, never went to family gatherings, even though my grandparents would always have great big dinners and stuff. But we would never go to travel when we lived in Mira Loma, and Riverside was only, 45-minute drive to their dairy there in Artesia. But and then my mom's brothers and two sisters lived there in Artesia, but never got to meet my cousins except for once a year or something, if that much. So I grew up pretty lonely. But the worst part was my sister Bobby and Shelby are 7 and 9 years younger than me, or younger than me. I was 7 when Bobby was born. Well, she was born September 15, and my birthday was January 14th. So I was 6 years, just 2 months short of my 7th birthday when Bobby was born. And I was 9 years old when Shelby was born. So Bobby and Shelby are about a year and a half apart. So they were very close. They had relationships with each other. And I was always their mom. I was always doing what my mom should have done. I was always their mom. And my sister said, Bobby told me, she says, I remember you being our mom, you fixing our lunches, doing our hair, being kind and sweet to us. But yet they even hate me now. So I don't know what the deal is. I give up. I don't have any family. I don't have any relationship with my son. The 2 girls that we adopted turned out to be monsters. They had reactive attachment disorder. They don't love any. They fail to love because of their being abandoned and abused. So that explains it, but it doesn't excuse it, because they could at least be thankful or show us some kind of love for all that we did for them and gave for them. They say that I'm terribly abusive. Yeah, I was. I couldn't stand their lying. And when they were teenagers, I would slap their faces because I got so mad. I never hit my son, and I never hit my grandmother. But these girls were just, they turned our house into a war zone. We had no idea what we were getting into, adopting older kids from an orphanage who were abused. We didn't know about reactive attachment disorder. We didn't know about psychopath, narcissistic, pathological lying. My son was never naughty. My son was really a good kid. He never got in trouble, and I never spanked. I don't remember him doing anything wrong except for, maybe knocking over something accidentally. And I was the same way. I never did wrong. I was always a good kid, always willing to help my mom. But I knew Bob was a liar. I knew he was a cheater. He had other girlfriends. He gave a woman, my grandparents gave my mom a 64 Plymouth Fury, brand new Plymouth Fury. It was turquoise. So she could drive the 110 miles from our house on Marysville Highway to Sacramento, where she was attending nurses college training. She went to RN training. She graduated cum laude. She was top in her class. She had something to prove, because Bob kept telling her she was a stupid Mexican and called her a black-hearted biatch, stupid Mexican. I heard that all my whole life about what a stupid Mexican my mom was. And that always made me feel bad, because I'm half of my mom. And my grandparents, Teresa and Moses Hernandez, were the hardest working people. My grandmother loved me. My grandmother cared for me. But then she fell into her own craziness after she had my mom took me away from my grandma when I was 3.5, almost 4, to take me to Florida to entice Bob to be a family man. That didn't work out, but it broke my grandmother's heart. And the first time she took me away from my grandmother was when I was a couple months old, and my grandmother was just devastated. So my grandmother begged my mom to let her adopt me, and my mom wouldn't do that. Not because my mom loved me or that she bonded with me, because she didn't. It was because she needed to use me as her pawn in order to keep Bob, her husband, my sperm donor, as a husband. My mom was so in love with him just because he was blue-eyed. He was handsome, But my mom was beautiful too. She was very pretty. She had black hair, fair skin, very smart, as were her sisters. Her sister Linda was absolutely gorgeous. My grandmother was Miss Oxnard, uh, and Denise, my aunt, who was born soon after my mom took me away from my grandma because my grandmother was so heartbroken over losing me, so she had Denise. But then she went Miss Hollywood with her new Cadillac and all the money. I guess you could say they were wealthy, not millionaires in those days, but quite a bit of money. Because my grandpa owned a large dairy there in Van Nuys. He owned the Van Nuys Quality Dairy. But that I read online that somebody else owned it, so I don't know what the truth is. I know my grandpa talked about owning it, and then there was houses there, and he rented out some of the houses that were on the dairy, and he housed those two horses, talking horses, Mr. Ed, and movie producer Bob Burrows was friends with my grandmother. So we used to go up to Castaic and ride Bob Burrows' horses. So Bob was always the playboy, and then he got into land deals. There, I don't know if it was in California or Arizona. Anyway, they sold phony land plots. And Bob got mixed up with another guy from church, from the Adventist church, Fred Smith. Anyway, Fred Smith got arrested and went to prison for 10 years. So, in order to skip away and leave town and Bob not get arrested, was for us to move in the middle of the night from, we had a nice home there in on Colette Street there in Simi Valley, San Fernando Valley. I went to Northridge Academy in the 5th grade. La Sierra School in the 3rd grade, 4th grade Corona, 5th grade Northridge. Then we moved up to Grass Valley when I was in 6th grade, going into the 6th grade. So we moved in the middle of the night, and I wasn't allowed to even say goodbye to my best friend, Suzanne Bihari. Her father was from India, and her father was so kind and so sweet. I loved a friend. She was about the only friend that I'd ever had for a long time, more than 6 months. So I was just heartbroken and devastated that I couldn't say goodbye. So we moved up to Grass Valley, and Bob was only going to get jobs that he could do under the table. And then Bob hurt his leg again, and same leg, and he broke it, multiple fractures. I forget, logging accident or something. He was helping his brother. So Bob was disabled, and he wouldn't work. My mom was going to school, proving that she was top in her class. She was focused on her studies. My sisters lived with an older couple, the Evans, Bob and Margaret Evans, from the Adventist church there in Grass Valley, Nevada City. And I went to Pine Hills Academy, Auburn Academy, Grass Valley Grade School 3. And then I went to another one for a couple of weeks. I was always living with other people. And I lived with Fred Smith's mom for under a year. I don't know what happened there, but my folks were always going to be getting a divorce. So Fred Smith's mom kept me with her in her home. She was so sweet, so kind to me. And I could say those were good years. And then I stayed with my mom's brother, Junior, who also had my 2 cousins, Donnie and Junior. Anyway, both my cousins died early age in their mid-50s. And then Denise lived there with them because my grandma gave Denise up when she was 4. So she lived with her older sister, Linda. I mean, but my grandma on my mom's side, maternal, her mom and her husband lived at opposite ends of the house. So this dysfunction went on for decades, generations. So that's what my mom was used to, was letting a man be disrespectful and calling you names. Because according to what I've heard, my great grandpa Valencia did it to my grandma, and my grandma did it to my grandpa, and my mom and dad. I mean, it is like a family curse. But anyway, Bob was always doing underhanded things, and I knew it, and that always made me mad. So while my mom was away at school, she would be gone weeks at a time, usually about 2 weeks, and then she'd be home every other weekend. She'd come home Fridays, and then she had to work Saturday night at the ER there at Nevada City Hospital, there in Grass Valley, Nevada City. So that meant I had to take care of my sisters, but I enjoyed that because I got to see them. We had no phone, no TV, no radio, nothing, on 10 acres of the dumpiest house you could ever imagine. It used to be called the Dewdrop Inn. It was surrounded by weeping willow trees. And I'm reading here. Put it all in caps. If you have a question, do @Zelda and then put it all in caps so I can see it. But I'm not reading the comments. I can't multitask. Sometimes I wonder if I have Alzheimer's, but it's the pain that distracts me, and then I get distracted easy. But I've been this way my whole life. My mom died of Alzheimer's, and I worry. I'm scared because of my pain and medication use my whole life. So I don't know. So let's see, getting back to my mom and dad. So I was always seeing Bob be dishonest with my mom and scamming her and scamming others. And I would tell my mom, Dad has girlfriends during the week. She'd go, shh, don't tell anybody. And I thought, wow. And then Bob was always doing something, stealing. And it just made me so mad. And after my mom graduated, I think I told you about my story about how I was kidnapped, drugged, and raped. A man, it's not really kidnapped, but yeah, it is kidnapping. A 45-year-old man came to our home out there in Grass Valley. I was 14 and a half, just as my mom pulled into the driveway, and she just parked, and I'd come up to her window. I was so excited because she had groceries I could eat, and my 2 sisters were with her, so I could see my sisters. They were like my babies. And so I enjoyed having them home after being alone on these 10 acres. I had a horse. I was told these horses were mine, and I find out it was just boarding them and for the Brulettes, Jack Brulette. Anyway, so I end up losing my horses that I thought were mine for 2 years. Anyway, so this man, Richard, I'd met his daughter, Christy, at the swimming pool. And the neighbor used to take me to the swimming pool. She'd give me enough money to buy a candy bar and then pay the 15 cents to go swimming there in Grass Valley. And then she'd drive me into the pool. But my parents didn't know that. But did they care? Because Bob was always gone gambling. He was gone days at a time. And here I was by myself on these 10 acres with no phone, no food, no TV, nothing. But I'd go across the street to the Abracadabra. You can look on Marysville Highway, the Abracadabra secondhand store, and I would dumpster dive, and they would give me food. Some of the neighbors gave me food because they knew I was being abused. So anyway, this man Richard came in. He had a red and white pickup truck. I think it was just a single cab, 1960 single cab red and white Ford or Chevy pickup truck. And he told my mom, he introduced himself. Hi, I'm Richard, and our daughters are best friends. And I'm going, what? I'm not best friends with Christy. Anyway, so he told my parents that a lie, and I felt uncomfortable. And he says that his neighbors, two kids, they had children, and one of their kids was in Sacramento in the children's hospital and was terminally ill, and they need a babysitter. I mean, yeah, you'd want to help out. And his wife and his daughter were sick, and he wanted to know if he could take me to watch the kids. Now, this was Friday about 3:00 in the afternoon in August. And he said he would bring me back Sunday or Monday because the parents were going to spend 2 days in Sacramento. My mom and dad never got his name, his address, nothing. No, like what, let me meet your wife, let me call, nothing. They says, okay, Cheryl can go. I didn't want to go. I said, Mom, I don't want to go. She says, you do that. It's your Christian duty. Why you don't want to do anything? You're not a nice girl. So I climbed in his car. I had shorts on. I remember I had denim cutoffs and a white top, and it was like 100 and something degrees out. It gets really hot in Grass Valley. And I climbed in his truck. I did not want to go. And I'm looking up Abracadabra thrift store, Grass Valley. Anyway, Richard gave me he got me a Rough and Ready Highway. He got me, he stopped at the dairy at the bowling alley, and he went inside. And it's 9 hours. It's 576 miles driving time. 9 hours and 45 minutes from Portland. Maybe I'll drive there in my new motorhome. Not still grappling about the motorhome. And now with this thing with Victor, who knows? But our insurance will take care of it. So anyway, I sat in his truck for forever, a half hour, 45 minutes, while he went into the bowling alley, which is, I believe, is where he got the drug Rohypnol. Because then after he came back to the truck, he says, I'll get you a soda. So he stopped at Dairy Queen, but he went inside and he had me wait in the truck. And then he brought out a cherry cola with extra cherries. And I said I didn't want to drink it because I didn't drink caffeine, because I'd signed a temperance card not to take any drugs, and that included caffeine. but he was mad. He told me, you're going to drink it. I bought it, for you. Nobody, you can get an excuse from your priest or something for drinking it. And I said no, but anyway, he got kind of testy. But I had no idea it had laced. But then he told me that he knew I was a virgin, and he didn't know about me being molested as a child. But he told me that he knew my father hadn't done right by me, and that was to have sex with me. And I knew I was in trouble. And I tried to get out of his truck. And I remember going past the Vietnam War Memorial Bridge there along Highway 49, along the Yuba River. And I contemplated jumping out. And he grabbed my hand really hard. And he says, if you jump, you'll get killed. And he started going faster and faster. So I was scared, very scared of what would happen. So he kept driving north. And I got out of he pulled off of the highway in the forest. And he drove up logging roads. And then he parked up a logging road. And he kept telling me to drink my soda. And next thing I know, he was trying to unzip my pants. And that's all I remember. That was Friday evening because the sun had gone down. My next recollection was him driving down our hill as the sun was rising. And he grabbed my hand and he said, if you tell anybody, I will kill your two sisters. I know where they live. And he named the area where they live. So I knew he knew. He says, I will kill your two sisters. I'll murder them. I was terrified. So I ran into our house, just went, Whoa! And I ran to the bathroom. There wasn't anybody home. My mom wasn't home. Bob was asleep. My sisters were gone. So that was probably Monday morning. So I took a shower forever, and there was no warm water. It was just cold water, but I didn't care because I wanted to get whatever he'd done. He raped me, and I knew it. And to me, that smell was just gag me with a spoon. To this day, it's a gagger for me. So, and it's understandably why, because it was a negative experience. Thank God I have a good husband who's very understanding. But was that fan kind of too loud? So I came back a very damaged soul. I went to bed and I put the rugs from we didn't have blankets and stuff. We were just really poor. I put carpets on top of the bed because I was so cold, and I went to sleep. And I don't remember how long I slept, but it was for several days. And then we moved. Then I had a nervous breakdown, and I told my mom what had happened. She blamed me. She took me to the ER. She told me not to tell him what happened because she wanted to take her state board. She needed to concentrate, and I couldn't tell anybody because then that would cause her to lose her mind. Then she couldn't concentrate and get her state boards. She says, if I don't pass my state boards, she had her nursing license boards to pass, nursing degree boards to pass, and then her state boards. And she says, if I don't pass these, then I went to school for all these years. I think she went to school 2.5 years. And she says, then we'll be poor. Your sisters will go live in foster care. Well, they'll be raped and molested, and it'll be all your fault. So don't tell them. So I didn't tell, but they gave me some drugs, Librium, because I had broke out with welts, and I had a panic attack, and I couldn't breathe. And then that's when I broke down 2 weeks later after what happened, and I told her. So she told Bob, and then the next thing I knew, Chet was up. Bob's younger brother, Chester, was up there in Grass Valley. And they came home. They were proud. It was like in the middle of the night. And they told me, well, they took chains and they beat every tooth out of Richard's head. And they left him for dead. I think they probably tried to kill Richard. That's good that they did that. But how did that help me? It didn't. How did it help me? Now I was scared because Richard knew that I'd told my parents that he'd raped me and he was going to kill my two sisters. So I was terrified. So my mom took me to the Brulette's house to stay because Richard kept coming by our house there on Marysville Highway, Rough and Ready. It's the Rough and Ready Highway. And then when I was over at the Brulette's house, I didn't know them. I just wanted to be at home. I wanted my mom to be home. I wanted Bob. I wanted somebody to be home. I wanted my sisters. But that wasn't going to happen. So anyway, I was terrified there because the Brulettes lived very close to Richard's house. Richard had a wife and a daughter my age, Christy, and she was friends with a guy named Miles. They went to Grass Valley High School. I've never looked up her name. I've never tried to find where she lives or anything, or make contact with her. I'd like to tell her what her dad did. Anyway, so they took me back home, and my mom left town again, back to Sacramento, where she lived with a woman whose husband was in the Vietnam War. He was overseas. So that's why my mom got to live with her. They were both schoolmates. So that was good for my mom, but that wasn't good for me. And Bobby and Shelby were comfortable. They were taken care of. Their needs were met, but not mine. Why wasn't Cheryl? Why didn't they care about Cheryl? And I knew Bob was lying and gambling and gone. And I couldn't take it anymore. Bob had been gone for several days, and they'd turned off the electricity, and there was no propane. I used to use eggs and oatmeal and make oatmeal patties. I'd make my own food. I love it. Onions, oatmeal, and eggs fried. Try that. I love fried oatmeal. I know it's crazy, but to me it was good because that was the only food I had. So I had a pet deer, and that deer came around all the time, and it would let me pet it. And I gave it Bob cigarettes. They like cigarettes for some reason. The deer there in Grass Valley did. They're different. The deer here are afraid of people, but the ones in Southern Oregon are really friendly. And so are the ones in Grass Valley. And I was terrified Richard was going to kill me. And I was home all alone. We live way out in the country. Across the street was the Abracadabra thrift store, and then a private road leading up to two other houses up there. And that's all. I didn't really know those people. But I was petting my deer, who was right here, facing here, and I was petting it and giving it a cigarette. And all of a sudden, boom, Somebody took a high-powered rifle with a scope and shot my deer. I think that bullet was meant for me. Richard tried murdering me. Retaliation. He was as evil as they come. He never faced charges with the police because I never got to tell. I tried telling about 20 years ago, and I called the Grass Valley Police Department, and this young African American answered, "Well, what do you want us to do about it? Go arrest him? He's in the grave. He's old. His statute of limitations had run out." He was very uncaring and unkind. I hope he gets raped. Anyway, that was just a horrible experience, not having the police even care. Because if Richard did that to me, I'm sure he did that to others. I wasn't his first rodeo. So we moved days later. He hit the deer, and her leg, her hindquarters was hit because she was at an angle like this, and I was petting her, and because she'd walked up, and then I held the cigarette like that, so she was right like that. I don't know if he got her front leg or hind leg. Anyway, there was a trail of blood leading out to the backwoods. And Bob and Chet went looking for the deer because they were going to eat it. Anyway, I was so heartbroken and so sad. And I was a very broken spirit. And then my mom was gone. And Bob was gone playing cards for several days. And I was so angry. I went out to the highway at 2:30 in the morning, and I stuck my thumb out and I hitchhiked, and a couple picked me up and gave me a ride into the tavern where Bob was gambling, playing cards. And I walked in there, and the owners were saying, hey, no, you can't go in there. I says, I'm going back there, because they had this private guard room. I says, Bob hasn't been home for days. I'm hungry. There's no electricity, there's no propane, there's no food. He's got to come home. So Bob was standing there, and I says, get your butt home. I said, get your ass home. You haven't been home. I've been alone, and there's no food, no electricity. I just wailing. Bob kept playing his cards. Hey, give me a few minutes. Give me a few minutes. I'm almost done here. I'm winning. Anyway, the shop owners, the tavern owners, fixed me something to eat. And Bob finally stopped playing his card game. It was after 4 in the morning. And because he'd been drinking and was tired, he had me drive. I drove at age 14 and a half. I'd been driving for a long time because of Bob's leg being injured. So I forget which leg. I think it was his right foot that was injured in a cast, so he couldn't drive. But he'd think I was going too slow, and he'd press his left foot on the gas pedal and made me drive faster. And I used to go, stop it. I was so nervous, and he'd be cussing at me. But anyway, I knew he had girlfriends because I saw him with several girlfriends. He'd drive by the house. Anyway, my mom chose to ignore it. And then Bob, as he got older, he started going to church and scamming people in church. And then he had what he called this Maranatha Christian Trust Foundation. And he would pretend like he was a doctor or a lawyer, and then he would have these free seminars to get your blood checked and your heart blood pressure, blood and cholesterol and everything for natural healing medicine. And Bob said he was opening these natural medicine places. I thought, what a liar. He smokes and drinks and he's going to do that. He doesn't even go to church. But he convinced these women that they should turn over their money to him, put it in his trust foundation. And $254,000 or $500,000. And every time these women would sign up, he had 5 women who gave him over $1 million. And my mom would go with Bob to different cities. My mom would dress up in her RN uniform, wear her tag, her nurse's tag, wore her hat. In those days, they wore hats. RNs wore the hats, and Bob was always proud that his wife was a medical, and then Bob would say he was a doctor. And then a couple of times, I have his cards and I have his brochures saying, what his education is. It's all a lie, all a scam. And that he was setting up these Christian Foundation, these medical missionary for natural healing and stuff like that. And then he needed this money to build these centers and to run them. And he would find recently widowed women, give them their spiel. And I said, Mom, you're doing wrong by supporting Bob in this. And I said, remember that story in the Bible, Ananias and Sapphira, who were stealing God's money? Anyway, God struck them dead. He did, because they were so dishonest. And I said, Mom, that's what's going to happen to you. That scared my mom. But it didn't stop her from stopping Bob, because she continued working, supporting him, going along with these health checks, helping him, just supporting him, enabling him to steal money. But this one woman, her name was Mary Digitalis. She had just signed over $250,000 to Bob, to Maranatha Trust Foundation. And her 2 sons lived in the San Francisco area, and Mary Digitalis lived outside Grass Valley, I think in Auburn. She was 80-something, very healthy. She drove her own car and everything. Well, Bob and Chet were together and paid her a visit. And while they paid her a visit, were in town, the same in Auburn where she was, Mary Digitalis got out of her car to get her mail, and her car ran over and killed her. And Bob got her $250,000. Her sons tried to stop Bob from collecting. He got several other women's money before that. And I think close to $1 million. It was all gone, all gambled. And I used to just be furious that Bob was scamming and lying and cheating and stealing from women in the church. And because he beat me so many times, I mean, he would take his belt and hold the loop in and hit me with the buckle. And for no reason. There was zero reason for him to beat me. And then when I was in our early 30s, and we had just adopted Maria, we went to visit my folks to introduce Maria to them, and our car broke down, but Bob wanted to fix it. Bob wanted Chet, his brother Chet, to fix it for several $1,000s, and I wanted the dealer to fix it, and I was upset. And Bob was angry because I wouldn't give his brother the $1,000 to fix our car, but it had a computer problem and I knew Chet couldn't fix it. And because I wouldn't do that, Bob overturned a chair and overturned the table on its side to get to me. And he beat me up in front of my brother, my mom, my husband, Maria, and my son. and they ran out of the house to call the police, but they ended up calling Pacific Union College Angwin, their patrol security people who were friends with Bob. He got away with it, and they told me. I was so mad. I pulled our family picture off the wall, and I knocked it over my knee, and I started cussing. Well, the police were there. I said, he beat me. And then Bob is in his office. He has his Bible open, his hair perfectly coiffed. He says, I'm a man of God. She's out of control. Look at her. She's crazy. I never laid a finger on her. I said, listen to my husband, my kids. They'll all tell you. And my mom's going, well, I said, Mom, tell them. Don't lie. Don't cover up for Bob. Anyway, he got away with it. And we had a broken down car, no way to get away. And my brother and my son went across the street to stay with Uncle Leo, the Pathfinder leader. And they spent the night with Leo and his wife. And Leo climbed into bed and raped my son that night. So there was a lot of evilness taking place. It destroyed my son. It destroyed his life, which in turn destroyed my life because my son won't talk to me. Anyway, Bob has always been a scammer, a liar, his whole life. He never worked. He never said, I love you. He did try to kiss me, but he'd say, give me a wet one. And he would stick his tongue into my mouth. Not all the way, but he'd do that. Give me a wet kiss. And I would stiffen up, and he'd pull my hair and he says, come on, give me a wet one. My sisters will tell you about the wet kisses. And I was just horrified because I'd been molested and raped. And so he would call me the wooden Indian because I would stiffen up. But this is why I am so passionate. HiD.com. Thank you. I hope you all would subscribe. I need more subscribers. Anyway, my story is pretty sad, but it's being made into a series for television, for Christian television programming about how God has led me and cared about me every step of the way, and how Satan tries to hurt me again and again and again. You know, my husband had oral cancer, doesn't smoke, drink, or chew. What's that all about? Anyway, there's a book. I'm writing my book, and my book will be similar to hers. One Woman's Journey to Victory. Susan Phelps Harvey. You can find her story made by the same people that are doing my story. They did my story about my pregnancy. I was raped, got pregnant. Of course, I was a bad girl. My parents said I was a bad girl. Anyway, let's make April Fool's Day the National Scam Alert Day. What do you think? An April Fool's Month, Scammer Awareness Month. Anyway, I hope the television program will pick me up because that'll be cool. But I want to be able to help slow the scammers down. They're not going to stop. They use these internet, I forget how they do that. Triology has, I like Triology. They scam the people. But they talk about how these scammers are able to spoof numbers. They can be in other countries, and they can use local numbers. and Creology Media, but they used a lot of foul language, which I'm not a. Let's see how scammers. In other countries. How they can use other countries to, they can live in other countries and then spoof use internet, and they stay hidden. Anyway, I'll try to find that. I saw it at 4 o'clock this morning. I was awake. Nigerian scammers. Anyway, thank you for listening. I need to close this. It's for an hour and 21 minutes but that's why I am so passionate about exposing scammers and child molesters. Oh, our church had a child molester, or no, rapist. Our music minister, Helio Ferreiro from Brazil, was our music minister, part of our 3-minister team here in Boring. You can look up Georgia pastor tied to 3DNA here in Oregon, but his trial hasn't taken place yet. But I'm going to try to get to the bottom of how our church could have hired him when they wouldn't let me play the piano because I didn't have a recent crim check by the Adventist Church, but I'd had a crim check from the crime background check by the FBI weeks before for my concealed weapons permits. But the elders wouldn't let me play the church piano, and then they let him play instead. But he was a rapist, and he didn't arrive in Oregon and start raping. He left Brazil because of his history. I'd like to know how he passed a crim check and why they let him play and not me. I think that was wrong. Anyway, she's dead now. She died of breast cancer. Sometimes I wonder about karma. Is karma for real? Anyway, pray for Victor, and his son, Junior. Victor's at the trauma center still. He's been there for 20 hours. He fell 6 feet and he landed hard right on his side, on his left side on the ladder. He fell 6 feet down and he broke 3 ribs. They haven't punctured his lung, but anyway, they're monitoring him at the trauma center still. And he's on morphine, poor guy. Anyway, Junior, his son, is an awesome, awesome kid. I really like Junior. He's hardworking, sweet, sweet, sweet kid. He loves his dad. His mom died when he was 3. And then he remarried. Victor remarried. And then his second wife, Junior's mom, stepmom, committed suicide. So Junior's been through a lot. And he's just a precious kid. He's just got his driver's license a year ago and works hard, always working. So pray for Victor and his son, Junior. Victor has been working for us for since we moved here 6 years ago, and he worked for the other people here. It takes a lot to keep our property up. We knew that when we bought it. I think that's why it was hard to sell it. The people that first owned this owned several nurseries here in the area, and they put in every beautiful flowering bush, shrub, and tree known to man. We have 20 Japanese maples. I hate them. That's my anyway. And then those decorative red tree. If you look on the look around my yard, you'll see all the trees that I had. The blooming, the red flowering maple or red flowering tree. Anyway, my favorite tree that was totally destroyed. And I don't know if I can get it back. So we're pretty upset knowing that Victor was hurt on our property helping us. I'm glad we have good insurance, but that's going to come out of our pocket for sure. And I wanted to get that motorhome, but I don't think that's going to happen now. Anyway, God bless you guys, and thank you for watching me and for praying for Junior and Victor, and also that I didn't wring Louie's neck when he reached down. He did. He went right under my, because I was wearing something like this. He reached down in there and he bit my boob. That would hurt. It's bruised. It's purple. I got purple boob. I was going to call the cops, but I didn't think they would arrest him. So I thought of wringing his neck. Anyway, he's alive. He's in his cage and he's doing good. So I am thankful that Victor didn't die. And but it's going to be a long road. It's going to be at least 6 to 8 weeks before he goes back to work. Thank you guys, and I hope you sub. I need every sub I can get so I can go live from my mobile phone. I need 300 more people. Anyway, thank you for watching, and let's make April Fool's Scammer Awareness Day and all of April exposing the scammers. Anyway, I think that's a good idea. April Fool's scammers. So God bless. Bye-bye. I'm going to end this now. Silly duck. Yeah, he's lucky he's alive. Anyway, send him a hot. Thank you guys. And check out everybody's channel. Angela Critters has her channel.com praying for you. Thank you. And Miss Jane too. Miss Jane in Australia. She's really suffering. So many people suffering. God bless. Bye.